Last lecture we had discussed the concept called as the grant of land. Now we are going to discuss the next concept with reference to the use of land. Uh, Probably this will be the last chapter from the first aspect of the Mlrc, Maharashtra Land Revenue Code, and very simple also, because section 41 to section 49 of the Maharashtra Land Revenue Code deal with this aspect. And grant of land, relinquish of land, as with reference to section 55 we discussed. Now we are on the point of use of land. Even though we are aware that there is occupied and unoccupied, these are the two categories of the land. However, so far as the use of land is concerned, the government and the government authority has a power to direct the authority or the cultivator, the user, to restrict their use, and therefore the provisions are made under section 41 to 49. Uh, the basic gist of this topic is that in order to avoid the misuse of the property, misuse of the land for the purpose which is allotted. I will give the example so that the entire gist will be understand. Suppose there is an agriculture land, and the person tomorrow start their any industrial project which is hazardous to the all the occupant around that particular project, to the agriculture land, to the water in the well, and all other agriculture industry. So if this particular things has been allowed, then the entire object of the Maharashtra Land Revenue Code will come to an end. And therefore, in order to avoid all these aspects, the provisions have been made under section 41 to section 49 in order to restrict the use of the land. Rather, it should be restriction toward the use of the land. And again, I have categorized this aspect into different parts. The first one is with reference to the section 43, and this first aspect, that is with reference to the restrictions of use of land. Now, what are those restrictions? As just now we had discussed that the the state government has a power, even though it is occupied land or unoccupied land. We had discussed section 20. There are, and section 29 also. The ownership of land is with the state government. At any point of time, state government can use it, acquire it. Similarly, if it is a leased land or the grant is given by the state government, whether it is class 1, class 2, class 3, the state government has the power to restrict the particular functions of that particular land. And therefore, uh, under section 43, the provisions are provided. The state government, through the collector or survey officer, may regulate the use of the land or the cultivation of the land. Like the government may say sometimes, depends upon the circumstance of the case, that the particular kinds of the crops cannot be taken by the agriculturists because of the so many reasons. Like suppose there is a shortage of waters, then the collector may order within the particular area that the crops like sugar cane cannot be taken by the agriculturists. No one can claim that it's as of my rights, I am the owner, I can. No, it's a section 20 is very much clear. The ownership is very much is with the collector, and therefore the collector has a power to use to restrict the use of the land. Similarly, if someone without the authority, without the permission of authority, it change the use of the land, then in such circumstance also, by the following provisions, the collector and the survey officer may restrict such person, may stop that person, may restrain that person from using the change of the use or use the land for the any other purpose. So this is the first aspect, that is the restriction over the use of the land. Next, that is the second one, is the rules in respect of use and change of use of agriculture land. Sometimes it happens, and therefore the provisions are made. It is not the case that the only because section 43 has provided that no change has been made, it cannot be made forever. No, it is not the case. Sometimes it happens that the agriculturists require the change of use of the land. Even it is used for the agricultural land, there are so many things like the section 41 provides use of the agricultural land for the farming building. Now, the Maharashtra Land Revenue Code has provided the farming building, that is the building used for the uh, agriculture is for his own residence or residence of the servant or keeping the farm's equipments, that is called as farm building. And in such circumstances, please bear in the mind, permission for construction of the building is not at all required, but it is not absolute. Subject to the area of construction and the holding of the land. So it's not an absolute rights. The landlord, the owner of the land is allowed to construct the farmhouse for his own purpose, for the purpose of the servant or for keeping the equipments of agriculture. But the area is fixed by the section 41 itself. And if it is beyond the area, that will be considered as that is illegal construction. So if it is within the area, please bear in the mind, no permission required. No, it will be considered as a legal construction. Like, take example, if suppose tomorrow we start the construction in Pune or Pimpri-Chinchwad area, then we have to take the permission. We have to take the permission, and if without the permission we should carry out the construction, then which is called illegal construction. In that case, the corporation will be issued notice. They might demolish it. Same is here. But if it is a farmhouse for the agriculturist, for the tenant, the agent, or legal representative of the holders of agriculture, it is a very vital definition. Then it can be construction without permission. However, the amendment in the 1986 provides certain restriction. Let us say what are the restrictions. Permission is not required beyond certain limits. What are those restrictions? It says if the farmhouse or the area of the farmhouse is come within the 8 kilometers of of the 8 kilometer of the periphery of the municipal corporation of the Greater Bombay or any other municipal corporation, or that is the Pune or the Nagpur, then in such case, or if it is a if it is come under the corporation area, any other corporation that is apart from Nagpur, Bombay and Pune, then it's a 5 kilometers. So if it is Pune, Bombay and Nagpur within 8 kilometers, if it is other corporation, then it's a 5 kilometers. Or if it is within the municipal regional town planning authority, then it's a 5 kilometers. Then in such case, the permission for construction uh, from the collector is required. So this formula for 5 and 8 kilometers is most important. So in that case, uh, uh, no permission formula will not be applicable. You have to take the permission from collector, and then only the construction will be allowed. Even to the farmhouse also. I'm sorry, the farm building. Farmhouse is something different. Similarly, when the application for permission is made to the collector, then the collector will be, by taking into consideration such application, will allow the permission, and those criteria will be, suppose it depends upon the length of the property which the occupant is having, and the length of the construction. That if suppose the holding of the agriculture unit is from the zero point 0.4 to 0.6 hectares, I'm talking about 0.4 to 0.6 hectares, then such person is allowed to construct 150 square meters, that is 1,500 square feet farmhouse. And if the area of the land is more than 0.6 hectares, then he is allowed to construct the maximum 4,000 square meters. So it depends upon the holdings. So in short, if the land is comes under within the 8 kilometers of the Bombay, Pune, or the Nagpur Municipal Corporation, or if it is then 8 kilometers, or in any other municipal corporation, or in the any other Nagarpalika area, then it's a 5 kilometer periphery. Then they have to make an application to collector, and collector, after taking these two criteria, that is the length, that is the holding of the land for 0.4 to 0.6 150 square meters construction, and in case of 0.6 more than 0.6 hectare, then 4,000 square meter. This aspect has to be bear in the mind. And if if suppose application is made, and the person uh, uh, who made an application, but the problem of the that holder is that he's having less than 0.54 hectare land, because see the criteria, if the criteria is between 0.4 to 0.6, then the permission is required. But what about those agriculture, those who are having less land than the 0.4 hectares? In such case the permission, uh, uh, collector will not grant the permission, but the height of such building should not be more than the 5 meters. Collector permission will be required, but the height should not be more than the 5 meters. This is another uh, 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 criteria is provided. So far as the rule in respect of reconstruction is concerned, same rule is applicable for the reconstruction of any already constructed house. Similarly, if the agricultural land and the farmhouse, that is farm building, is situated within the municipal corporation area or council area, as the case may be, then the permission or the rules in respect of Maharashtra uh, MRTP, that is Regional Town Planning Act, and the Municipal Corporation Act will be become applicable. In that case, if it is a corporation area, the person has to take the permission from the commissioner. If it is the MRTP, that is Maharashtra Regional Town Planning, then it has to take the permission from the COO or the officer of the that particular area. So far as the construction of the house, that is farm building, is concerned. And with this, come to the next aspect, that is with reference to the uh, section 42, change of use of agricultural land, that is called as convert the agricultural land into non-agriculture. Sometimes we use the word NA, that is non-agriculture. What is the procedure? And this procedure is provided under section 42. If any land which is used for the agriculture purposes, and if the any person who intended to use it for non-agricultural purposes, then there is a procedure provided under section 42 and 43. In that case, first and foremost, the permission from the collector is required. Since it is an agricultural land, then permission from the collector is required for the any. If any person without the permission of the collector use the land, this will be illegal, and he has to face the consequences, as we are going to discuss in this chapter itself. Then for the change of use of the non-agricultural land, he has to uh, make an application to the collector. However, such permission is not required if suppose uh, uh, that particular land is required for the personal bona fide purpose, that is personal use. Then in such case, this particular permission from the collector is not required. Please bear in mind, if it is for the commercial purpose, then only permission is required. If it is for the personal use, then the permission is not required from the collector. Or if suppose uh, if it is for the micro enterprises, those which are based upon the agricultural products, or which comes under the definition of section 2 of the act called as the Medium Enterprises Micro Development Act 2006, then in such case, all the commercial activities like uh, the small shop for the agriculture purpose, the flour mill, and the grocery shop, or the grinding machines uh, for the agriculturist or for his wife. Then in such case, the permission from the collector is not required. It is allowed, but the big industries, but big commercial industries, for that purpose, permission is required. However, uh, uh, if suppose, even though if it is used for the personal use, or if he has started some the domestic industries as defined under the Medium Enterprises Development Act 2006, it is a duty cast upon such a person. that even the permission is not required, he has to inform to the Tahsildar within the 30 days that he has used that land for the non-agricultural purpose, and now he is using for his bona fide purposes, either for his own residence or for starting these small industries. He has to inform to the Tahsildar within 30 days. If he fail, of course, that is, he has to go to the village officer, that is Talati in all this aspect, and the he has to inform to the collector, I'm sorry, to the Tahsildar, and later on the collector, that is the Tahsildar, will be informed to the collector. So even the permission is not required. He has to intimate to the Tahsildar in this regard that he has used the agricultural land for these non-agricultural purposes. So in short, according to this section, the permission for the non-agricultural purpose is required in certain cases, and not required in certain cases. Now we'll go further and we'll discuss what are those provisions under this topic, wherein the permission is not at all required to change the use of the land. And the first aspect is provided by the amendment under section 42A, that when the land is situated within the development plan area, and in that case development plan area development by the plan is prepared by the government, and when the land is situated in that particular area, therefore under section 42A, in that case permission from the collector is not required. And there are two categories. If the land is a occupant number one, that is we call it occupant class number one land, in such case, if it is the class one land, and if it is situated under the development plan prepared by the government, then the provisions of Maharashtra Regional and Town Planning Act 1966 will be applicable to this. Then in that case, the permission is not required, because automatically by DP, that is we call a development plan, that land use has been already changed, and therefore there is no permission is required. You have to pay the certain amount to the government. That is different aspect. But when we're talking about the permission is not required when the by development plan, when the land itself comes under the purview of the Maharashtra Land Regional Town Planning Act 1966. Secondly, if it is a class 2 land, or the occupant class 2 land, and the Nazrana, what do you call, that is because it's a, because we are aware, in case of class 2 land, it's a transferred to in perpetuity. But whenever it is transferred, that is when the land is to be transferred, it cannot be transferred without the permission of the government, because they have to pay certain nazrana to uh, the government authority. And therefore, if it comes under the town planning act, that is development plan, then by paying the that particular nazrana, the holder can change the use of the land. This is the second aspect which is provided under the section 42A in case of the class 2 land. So if, in short, if the land comes under the town planning, that is the act, that is the Maharashtra Regional Town Planning Act 1966, under the Development Act, whether it is a class 1, whether it is a class 2, depends upon the payment upon the amount, then in that case no permission is required. However, there is a duty cast upon the person. When any person he obtained the permission from in writing, uh, uh, then he has to inform to the village officer within the 30 days again, and to the Tahsildar accordingly, that he has changed the use of the land from the agriculture to non-agriculture purposes. And if it fails, then there is a fine provided, that is fine up to, he is liable to pay the fine up to 25,000 rupees, or the four times of the agricultural assessment of the that particular land, whichever may be higher, that he is liable to pay. If he failed to pay, I'm not talking about the permission, because there is no need of the permission. Similarly, uh, no permission is required for the bona fide use of the industrial purpose of the land. I'm talking about the not industrial, bona fide use of the industrial purpose. Now, what is this aspect? Now, again, this is the amendment carried out under section 44A by the legislature. It says if an agriculture or non-agriculture land situated within the industrial zone. Now, this is most important. If it is, if it is industrial zone. The land is agricultural or non-agriculture, but the zone is industrial. So there are different zone, that residential zone, non-residential zone, agricultural zone, green zone. There are so many zones. So we are talking about industrial zone. Suppose the state government tomorrow decided that, as it happened in the long back 1970 or 71 in mostly agricultural area also, that government has declared this particular area as an industrial zone. But after declaration also, so many people they're cultivating the land. Nowadays they are not doing, but we are talking about long back. So if this is the situation, and zone has been declared, or if the land is comes under the town planning scheme, or uh, within the area of the undertaking of the private development, then in such case, without the permission of the collector, or without the permission of any other authority, the holder of the land can use the land uh, for the bona fide industrial use. Now, before he is using the for bona fide industrial use, he has to do certain mandatory provisions. First one is that he has to see whether the title of the land is clear, and whether the arrears, that is land revenue and all this aspect, has been paid to the government or not. Secondly, if he fails to do that, and if the land is used for the public purposes, then it cannot be used for the industrial zone. Similarly, the, the law has provided certain restriction for using of agricultural land, or if that particular land is acquired for the under the land acquisition act for the road purpose and all this purpose, then in such case he cannot start the industrial, even though it is bona fide purposes. Then once he start the change the use of the bona fide industrial purpose, then again it is a mandatory duty, and the person who is using, he has to intimate to the lower officer and to the tahsildar within 30 days from the changing of the use, failing which again uh, he has to pay the certain fines to the government authority. And by taking the application, making application within the 30 days from the authority, he can use the land for the bona fide non-agricultural purposes. Now come to the next aspect, that is with what is the procedure if any person he wants to. This is the third aspect which we are going to discuss. Firstly, we'll discuss permission is required, that is required. Then uh, where the permission is required, where the permission is not required. Now we'll discuss the procedure. What is the procedure to be followed by the person if the change of use of land, he want to change the use of land from one purpose to another purpose. And section 44 deals with this aspect. Let us see what are those provisions. The first provision is that if suppose if the land is land which is not exempted from the permission, like we had discussed, agricultural farm, bona fide industrial purpose and domestic purpose, if it is not exempted, mandatory permission is required to be taken from the government authority. Then such person, he has to made before converting the land into, I'm talking about before, he has to made an application to the collector in a precise form, whether he is a landlord, he is a tenant, he is a legal heirs, or whoever may be the occupant. He has to make an application to the collector. He has to show the intention, and that application is made in prescribed manner. Then he has to pay the fees to the change of use that is given by the government authority. However, simultaneously, there is a duty cast upon the collector. Once the application is received by the collector, then the collector has to decide the application within 7 days. This is mandatory because the consequences we'll discuss later on. And based upon the application, if the collector, after inquiry, satisfied that yes, he deserved to permission, then the collector will allow the permission to use the change of the use. And while granting the permission, the collector has to take into consideration various aspects like the safety of the people, the convenience, the dangers to the soil, the surrounding area, or the people who are staying in the local authority, and all this aspect. And once the permission from the collector is required, I'm sorry, allowed by the collector, then uh, if the collector fails to either to reject the application or to allow the application, this is very interesting. For the permission of non-agriculture given by the applicant within 90 days, then it is deemed permission. It can be presumed that the permission has been granted to the applicant, and he can continue the use of non-agricultural purpose in this behalf by the person. And if the permission is granted, of course it's a duty of the person in whose permission is granted again to inform to the local authority or the local officers that such kind of permission is granted uh, by the collector in this aspect. So this is third aspect, the procedure. Now we'll discuss what are the consequences if the land is used without the permission. The change of land is used without the permission of the collector. Especially section. This is the fourth aspect. Section 45 deals with the penalty, and it's specifically provided, like we have discussed section 44 also, if the land and the purpose of land is done without the permission of the collector or the any other local authority, or if the person, if the after granting the permission or he has breached the terms and condition of the orders, then in certain cases the provisions are provided that the person is liable to pay certain fine or amount of fine as fixed by the section 45. Similarly, uh, as per section 47A, once the use of the land is changed from say for agriculture to non-agriculture or the industrial purposes, as per section 47A, the user it's a duty of the user to pay the new taxes. Like for the earlier, if it is agriculture purpose, then the ratio of the tax, that is the revenue of the land, is something different. But if it is non-agricultural purposes, it is the duty of the user to pay the non-agricultural taxes, or if it is industrial, to industrial purposes. So this is all about the very small and very interesting chapter that is called as use of the land.